this fame and all this money, I could learn to like this game. Just show me the money. Ha! They say I'd be long gone, but that day never came. Cause on every street corner, y'all finna know my name.
Can't hold us back. We can do what we want when the lights come up and the music plays. Can't hold us back. You can say what you like, but we won't let nothing stand in our way. No, flying high above the clouds. We're gonna live forever. Ain't nobody can stop us now. We're gonna live forever.
Icons 2022. I'm joined by our Qs, Chaz and Helios after their win and making it to the group stage. Just wanted to start here. How are you feeling after that last match?
We are feeling good and looking forward for our group stage.
Helios?
Happy that we're able to be in a group stage.
What does it feel like knowing that every time you play, you have the entire country and a lot of the Southeast Asian region behind you? You have so many fans.
Of course, we feel motivated because a lot of fans in Southeast Asia are rooting for us, and we are thankful for that.
Helios, you lead, you're one of the leaders in the tournament in terms of kills. What has it been like knowing that you're one of the best in all of, not just Southeast Asia, but the region in terms of picking up those last hits?
I can't tell that I'm the best in region, but I'm only best at PH.
Oh no, that's what this whole tournament's about, showing that you're one of the best in this region and the world so far. Now that you made it to the group stage, what do you want to learn? What have you, sorry, let's go back. What did you learn from this play-in stage that you'll use in the group stage?
I'm still learning of my mistakes, still improving my gameplay, and yeah.
How about you, Jess?
What the question?
What did you learn from this play-in stage that you're going to use the most for group stage?
I think I've learned being aggressive, like Chinese team.
WRL is very aggressive.
Very aggressive, and we're applying that to our team.
And then finally, I needed to ask you, Helios. We heard that you're a big Riku fan. Do you have any shout-outs that you wanted to make real quick?
Hi, Rico.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, for the interview. The RRQ boys are through to the group stage. Mika and the boys on the desk, take it away.
You know, we hi Riku. Hi Riku.
I just want to say, Helios, thanks for lending me your Lamborghini the other day. It really helped. Really helped so I could get to work on time. You're a bro. You're a homie.
That is just so cute, and I think we're gonna see this storyline just develop a little bit further as Icons progresses. I am definitely invested. I think a lot of people are indeed. We do know the Filipino fans love this, love this little, we call it a kilig factor. But when you get giddy because you're excited about something. But right now, we can get very excited about our third match. It is going to be Group C. Yesterday, Random and Snitch led RIX to a victory over Vivo Kid. And they get a second shot at T1, who they almost took down earlier in the week.
Don't look at me, I'm still thinking about the Lamborghini.
Oh, you're still thinking about that.
I'm off balance.
Yeah, but it's an important rematch, and there's a lot of adaptations that RIX are taking as lessons going into this time around with the third seed of Korea.
I'm ready to go. T1, yes, there's a very late game scaling team, usually one of these Korean rosters that is very good at macro, very good at stalling things out for one critical team fight. And over on the RIX side, a team that isn't known for their ability to land those big team fights on the international stage. We came in with a lot of questions about that. Well, they delivered in skirmishes. They've demonstrated they have the mechanical talent to control maps against some of the best teams. And we saw them versus T1 initially take that series very close. What's different this time? All 5 of their players are on stage. Snitch was playing remote after he tested positive for COVID. He's now survived his quarantine period. He's coming back out. Tested negative today, on stage for the first time, playing for their chance to continue in this tournament.
That's exactly true. And I was going to ask you guys what you think that will do for RIX. It's a morale boost for sure, and it's probably definitely going to improve some of the little kinks that they had earlier on, especially since that was a big wrench that was thrown in their plans.
I wouldn't put too much stock into it because when I caught up with RIX after their first initial loss against T1, I asked them, did Snitch being in the hotel like affect you guys at all? I was like, no, the communication was still just as good. I think, yes, there's like a slight, good vibes boost when you have everyone on stage, but I think it all comes down to the playing.
I'm going to let you finish, but Snitch had the best vibes of the year. And I think that is what you say. That is what you have to say when someone like Mark comes up and says, does it affect you? But also, having someone like Snitch who is such a vocal in-game leader on stage with you as a contributor to your team is so important, and I do think it is going to give them a huge boost, especially given that Snitch has been such a performer in this tournament, even remote, even playing in quarantine.
There's been pop-off games. I think the most remarkable one that I can recall, even in their loss against T1, was that Echo. The first Echo that we had ever seen from Icons, piloted to almost great success. It comes down to now how well RIX can actually use what the lessons they've learned in their failures against T1 earlier on. Can they actually close out the games once they get that early lead?
That's a big question, and I wanted to ask you guys because it seems as though RIX, in the very, very early game, they are able to get those first bloods, they are able to get the first towers, and this happened during their previous match as well. It doesn't seem to convert just yet into that, into something that they can snowball and eventually use as the game progresses. Do you think that that's going to change this time around, Rafa?
And on the flip side here, at Korea, this is the last seed that is around from the play-in stage. If they get knocked out here, it would only be up to Roaster Y to represent WCK on the international stage.
And what a disaster for Korea this play-in stage has been.
That's right. And right now we're going to head into our predictions. And, I think that these were the last two series that I think were the most difficult to predict based on what happened yesterday.
I'm alone? I'm the only one with T1 face here?
Look at me becoming a convert.
Remember earlier when we looked at the Game Lord Flash Wolf, the Game Lord Flash Wolf series, and I said I ran out of hopium? It's because I budgeted the remaining hopium for Europe to RIX. I think they've learned from their lessons. I don't think T1 has showed enough adaptation going into the final series. RIX, this is their time to shine and advance forward into the group stage.
That's absolutely right. Let's see indeed if they can advance. We're going to send it over to Grandin and Riku. Hi, Riku.
Hi, Riku.
Hi, Riku.
Hi, Riku.
Hi, Glendon. Hi, everyone.
Riku here with me. I'm Grandin. We'll be going into our next series very shortly. T1 versus RIX, a rematch, but this time with elimination on the line. They really have to step things up because I will say I am looking forward to T1 winning again 2-0.
Oh, wow, the bold prediction here. I mean, it feels like after what we witnessed...
You're not alone, TJ!
Yeah, you're not alone! I mean, I'm totally with you there. The fact that yesterday we saw Sentinels grab that win...
Are you still on ooh speak? I just hear like, Sentinels.
I'm trying, Brandon. I'm trying. But it's a big deal, right? This could go either way for RIX or for T1. And imagine if T1 loses this, that means there's only the one lone representative from the WCK region, which is RY Roaster.
Well, RIX also face a very similar fate here. They want to be able to push forward the EU side as well. So far, WRL and WCS will see 4 teams each moving into the group stage, and so a lot of tough competition, but a lot of chances to improve as well. Immediately we go into a pick and ban phase with the bans coming through. Ari and Yumi on the side of RIX, and with the Jace and Lucian on the side of T1.
Totally understandable, right? We saw Core being one of the best RE players in the play-ins, especially the fact that it has been that pivotal pick once we look back at their WCK performance. And no surprises there, that's going to be a Karma. And what I love with a Karma pick on the side of RIX is that it opens up so many. You could go for an Olaf type of composition. You can go for possibly a Varus that we've seen being paired with the Karma at the bottom lane, because that's a ton of poke.
Exactly, the Enchanter being able to come in, help your team out, have also that poking wave clear, and still be flexible. A big reason why it was banned away in the previous series that they played against each other. T1 will respond here with the Camille and Corki.
I like this pick. I mean, we've seen John before on this Camille. absolutely scary. The fact that you can set up for JY as well for those top lane early dives, I'm loving what I'm seeing from T1. Meaning, potentially, if they pivot to a Lee Sin in this draft, they could move early and match RIX, potentially.
I mean, both games we saw from T1 were games that went past that 20-minute mark.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I'm feeling like T1 want to keep that going, you know, go into the late game RIX respawn here with the Jax and the Ziggs.
That's why it might be topsy-turvy land, Grandin. What if this time RIX goes for the late game scaling comp? Because so far, the Ziggs and the Jax is saying, okay, our problem before is that we couldn't match you late game during our first series against each other. We're gonna match you with these picks at least.
Bringing you to the absolute limits here. T1 also go in with the Rakan. I am a little bit surprised here, right? You have RIX who have now changed up the game plan dramatically. First time around they went into it, they had a lot of pickoffs, they had a lot of fight potential, and now they go, yeah, we're gonna scale up, we're gonna play for that late game. What are you gonna do against a Karma and a Ziggs?
Yeah, that is my biggest worry, right? They still have 2 last picks here, which means that they can pivot at least to have early game. I can see a Renekton happening at least for top side to make sure that you have that early to mid game transition, that bully potential, and especially that snowball potential as well.
Bright side is, a wave will likely never see the turret. You know, a wave will never make it to the turret on the RIX side. You just have permanent wave clear. T1 want to try and get rid of some strong options. Surprisingly, RIX ban away the Olaf themselves.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're not going to pick up that Olaf for random for top side instead. I like the Shen ban coming from T1, meaning they always think that the Karma's not going to be enough for the Jax. They always will think that the Shen will also be there to join the fray. Because again, take note, where is the CC for RIX? They're going to have a hard time holding down targets. Meanwhile, for T1, look at that. They've got another CC on the board.
Big pickup potential here with the Lux for T1. We saw how well Random was able to execute with the Shen in their previous series, so this time around, they get rid of those options. The Greg is taken away as well. T1 with a lot of pickup potential, and RIX now with the next 2 picks to decide what they want to go for.
I don't know, Grandin. I mean, the way that T1 is moving right now, it's an all-in type of composition, removing the best disengaged champion, meaning RIX, you want to play defensive here to stall the game. You need a Braum, but this is their engage right now. Again, we talked about the lack of damage, and
that's a lot of engage.
Double engage, knock up into the Cyclone. But that's late game team fights.
The Ulgon has risen up in priority a lot in our recent games, and we see teams execute that very well. Pairs it together with the rest of the team. I mean, you don't have the Olaf, but you have a Jax paired with the Karma. My only concern here is where that consistent DPS is going to come from before the Jax comes online.
Yeah, it's one of those things where how can you stall the game? You do have wave clear, check. Where is your disengage? I suppose the Alistar pushing you far away from your carries is a form of disengage. And the protection from random as well. If you want to dive him, set up a level 2, level 3 dive with the Xin Zhao and the Camille. That's going to be tricky. Level 5, you have that Cyclone for that potential, that outplay potential under tower at least.
If T1 do look for that aggressive move, and we have seen Penguin go there before, work together with Jung, and JY will have Xin Zhao. So, pairing that together, you have a lot of early game aggressive options. Question is, can T1 make those work for them?
That is the question, because yesterday we saw Kwangdong Freaks also try the same thing where they wanted to pivot in an early to mid scenario. Unfortunately, didn't work out so well for them. But I like this, the topsy-turvy opposites now with the attack for both of these teams. They're coming out of their comfort zone, so we'll see if this is going to work out for game number 1.
Yeah, I love that. I love getting them out of the comfort zones. That's the most fun part of this series for me.
Yeah, because you don't know what's gonna happen, right? And it's incredibly important to do that now because once you emerge out of the play-ins and you enter the groups, that's when it gets tricky. That's a time where you need so many cards on the table to release on the board.
Well, game number 1 starting here and now. We'll have to see if those cards are ready or if they haven't been played yet, will we get to see them?
That is the question here, right? So it's very clear that RIX wants to stall. T1, TLDR, early to mid form for them. That means they can shadow RIX every time they wanna trade. No, we're gonna follow you at Rift Herald, we're gonna follow you at Dragon, they're gonna force fights because that's what they have to do.
Get that momentum going, get the tempo moving. A lot of that's gonna come down to Penguin here in the bottom side. When you have that Rakan, a lot of that pressure is going to be on you. As Random, he got a little bit of respite here. Without Clue on the Alistar, this was going to be a very difficult game for the Wukong alone.
I'm so excited for the first back for these 2 supports, right? Because I can imagine that the first back will be all the supports, both Clue and Penguin are going topside to help their top lane, and we might see first blood there, even.
Quite potentially. And with the way things are going right now, it might be Jong that sets them up on the turret. Maybe look for a dive or a play that way. For now, though, we do see JY spotted out by Vision. A heavy investment here to try and get some information on where JY is going to be.
It's so hard to gank a Karma, right? It has movement speed, can just run away back to tower. But that on the other side of the spectrum, though, range-wise for core, much better, meaning priority, meaning you can do this.
We're looking at parallel jungle here. Is JY genuinely looking for a dive right now because Random is backed all the way off. Nowhere close to lane. That no rescue.
Yeah, gotta save that flash. Gotta make sure I love this from early game, right? From RIX, right? They've seen this. They've seen it so many times from the WRL, from other teams as well. So I like this adaptation.
We do see them trade Scuttle Crabs here. JY will recall, will not look to try and pick up the jungle camps on the opponent's side. RIX start to move in. Half vision here on Penguin, and so a dangerous position here for the Rakan. He continues to walk in, gets knocked up. Counter-strike doesn't land. Stun does not come across. JY starts to walk in now, finds the 3-prong strike.
Oh?
Light Binding does not manage to connect. T1 won't be able to punish RIX.
Yeah, nice leap from 7 there, able to dodge away that Light Binding. I wanted to point out earlier that the fact that every T1 member had the control ward, that means, I mean, earlier it was pure red, now they've managed to change their trinkets. But that just means that T1 prioritizes a lot on these big vision control from their team, and I feel like that information is going to help them early game.
Absolutely. We saw what happened. JY was spotted out by Vision along the top side, and that's why Random was able to back off before he was at risk of dying. Now, of course, we do see a trade on the top end, looking better and better for Random as he continues to scale up that Stone Skin passive, making a big difference.
Yeah, Random having a lot of star plays.
Don't think we see too much here from Penguin. The question is T1 able to follow up and convert this into a kill? The exhaust here now onto Doom, still looking for the damage to finish off either's target. Neither will go down though.
Nicely done. No one's still going down. 3 minutes on the clock yet. Just a bunch of summoner spells being burned at the moment. And you can tell that a lot of these teams want to create space already. Want to get a bunch of gold from turrets, from kills. But I like this resilience. I like it from both of these teams.
It is a little bit surprising to see that T1, who have drafted for that early game aggressive composition, have not managed to find first blood yet.
Yeah, that's true.
And RIX keeping up so well.
It's so hard, right? There's an Alistar that's super tanky. You're gonna push them out of the way, push JY, push anyone that goes near, basically. So, in a sense, while they don't have a Braum, Clue still works so fine on this Alistar.
Not a Braum, but it is an Alistar.
Yeah.
T1 trying to fight back here. Still, again, an early fight, trying to move in. JY jumps in first. Counter-strike comes in, looking for the final spark. Gives them the support, and first blood finally over to T1.
That's what they've been waiting for. Able to get that 2v2. I mean, it's so easy. If you have Jong, if you have JY, while you do have disengage with that Xin Zhao, you do have that Hextech ultimatum to lock people down. And guess what? Your only big problem is 7 right now, that you want to keep on a tight leash, keep him chained, make sure that his growth is slow, rather. And T1 so far, doing a great job.
But RIX still working with the Jax. And so I'm looking forward to see if and when that champion comes online, how T1 intend to respond. For now though, we do manage to see the double Luden's Echo from Snitch and Doob. A lot of wave clear.
For me, what I'm curious about for T1 is that since they're so used to the WCK special of transitioning and winning through Elder Drake 5v5s, but this is again an early to mid composition, makes me wonder if they do have...
Trying to force an engage in the mid side. Misses a chance for Light Binding on the Doom. Doom still with his flash. But flash from Penguin expanded for that fight right as first objective spawn.
We talked about how T1 has to shadow, right? They have to force fights. They have to follow RIX. If RIX wants to trade, no, you gotta go there instead. That's the reason why they're still waiting to see as we get Random over towards topside still.
This is pretty wild, Riku. T1 delaying the start of the objectives.
Yeah.
Very few teams go for this play. Very often we see them just rush it down as quickly as it's up.
Again, they want to shadow. They want to shadow RIX. They want to know where RIX is going to go because they have to fight them here and now. Looking at these two, they're still towards the dragon. But you can see Penguin hovering around. Seems to me that they cannot start anything as it is too late.
Yeah, a little too far away. They trade away the array away. Oh my goodness, you're infecting me with mood speech. Away the
I'm
Rift
sorry.
Herald and take the Dragon for themselves. The Mountain Drake for T1 helps against a lot of the poke damage that RIX are going to have. But
Ooh.
oh, that's cheeky. Delay stopping recall. And it's not just short cooldown. You might as well, right?
Yeah. I think that's also important, right? Delaying these backs. But I want to go back to my point earlier, is that it makes me wonder if T1 can accelerate this game, because that is definitely a requirement for their composition. If not, 7 is just going to run over them. Doom is just going to get a lot of these hard-hitting pokes. Going back to what Kanga said, we've seen so many damage graphs already from the Ziggs. We've got 47k last time. That is humongous.
Oh, it won't help if Jump goes down here. Counter-Strike prepared, but won't be able to land. JY here to mirror and counter. T1, you said you wanted to see them get that tempo to start this one off, but it looks like RIX are the ones that are trying to take the initiative.
Yeah, T1 being very defensive right now with their composition, most likely because they don't have information, especially it might be a 2v3 scenario, so understandable why T1 is doing this.
And they are correct.
Yeah.
It is a 2 versus 3. T1 probably don't know that for certain, but they had an inkling, and they made the right guess. It was going to be a 2 versus 3, so T1 decided not to fight for that. So how do T1 end up scaling up? How do they pick up the tempo and put the pressure on the RIX?
I really don't think Core can match Doom's damage output in the later stages of the game.
Oh boy.
I feel like that's going to be the worrying trend. The only other thing that I could see happen if Jong potentially snowballs.
Okay, running down, but
Whoa.
Snitch is a little bit over-aggressive when it comes lightning here to
There
flash
it
forward, look for the
is.
kill, jump in onto Snitch, just need a little bit more, the phosphorus bomb to finish it off.
Gotta love what T1 is doing, right? They see an opportunity, they're gonna take it as long as they know that in the end they're gonna win.
Doom with the instantaneous flash knows the Hextech ultimatum will surely end him.
It's a lot of respect. Yeah, Clue gotta clear the wave here. Random coming in. Just to clear the wave as well.
It's a team effort.
It is a team effort. It is
Team
a
effort to clear
requirement.
waves.
Exactly, especially if both of you are 2 melee champions, it's gonna be difficult against the Corki.
First turret likely to go down here. RIX to pick it up with the Rift Herald. T1 not able to block this. Meanwhile, we see 7 rotating to the mid side. BDG in a spot of danger. Meanwhile, Core's fighting random by himself.
bait? No, it's
He's
not.
waiting for JY to show up. The phosphorus bomb a second too late. Won't be able to give them vision around him.
Both of these teams are playing amazing defense, right? You think Binding is not gonna hold him down, but every single time T1 wants to go in, apparently RIX outnumbers you. And it feels like, because this is such an important series,
Well, hello there. Core caught alone.
Core.
Flashes back on the turret. The 4 members here to collapse in on him. T1 lose their mid laner.
well, that's tough. We'll see if they're gonna retaliate.
They will. Re-engaging here. Gets the final spark. Ultimate comes through. Stitch still alive. Loses his life to the turret. Ultimately taken down, but a counter-strike now to try and dive in. Take down Penguin. The turret going down as well. They're working on 2 things at once. 327's got turret in. He's got Penguin.
Multitasking, RIX. Gotta love it. Taking down the tower and getting kills. They've won that skirmish. They've won that fight. And it's looking really good. It's looking really bad for T1. The fact that 7 is getting early game kills, meaning that you can propel your Jax even faster.
He has that Triforce, Riku.
He has a Triforce already.
That's tons of damage.
I know. One thing that I'm interested though to see that there's a Maw completed by Core. So there's a ton of respect for the magic damage coming from Snitch and Doom. Let's take a look at that again. That was a deep dive coming from RIX. But the fact that everyone from T1 were straggling, coming in one by one, that means they have a comfortable tower dive. Yes, Random fell into this battle, Snitch as well, or rather Snitch only fell from battle, but it doesn't matter. They got a tower, they got kills. I love this coordinated fight from RIX.
Opening up the map even more. And while doing so, closing up the kill gap, also finding themselves a gold lead. JY having a difficult time, right? He's been strong for a while now, but now up against 7, getting more and more difficult to take down the Jax.
Yeah, this is gonna get tricky, right? Because T1 is supposed to win the early to mid game, and the opposite is happening at the moment. And with the Infernal, this is what we're talking about, right? T1 has to shadow. T1 has to force fights right now, and that's the reason why they're here contesting this one.
Very marginal goal difference on both sides. Both teams slowly pulling ahead and back away. RIX now with the gold lead also get themselves a second Rift Herald of the game. Inferno Drake will spawn now as T1 wrestle for control.
T1 trying their best here to look at them coming from different places. JY coming from the flank.
Oh,
But
this
they
is
see
so
this.
sketchy. Flash over to JY. JY needs to flash into the pit himself.
Wow.
Venom comes in, gets Cyclone back. Penguin might lose his life. He tries to keep his jungler alive, but JY goes down first over in the back line. Jong left alone. Clue chasing after. He's got the stun prepared and ready. But Hookshot will get them away, and the Dragon surely must go over to T1.
Whoa!
BDG still trying to steal this one away, but a beautiful route
Whew.
out from Snitch. Stun comes across, the exhaust onto the Lux, following through into the mid lane to finish off the final kill. Jump comes back into the mid lane, but they don't have the help to fight this.
Wow.
A beautiful knockout back on the Penguin as he tries to re-engage. Still a little bit more damage on the Clue. They cannot find his 7. Wants the last kill, but he will not get it.
But it doesn't matter. This is such a good sign for RIX winning that skirmish. The fact that T1 tried so hard to find the proper position. Jong coming from the river. JY starting a flank. No, RIX is just so good. Prioritizing targets, knowing which to go first, and that is the reason why T1 lost that fight. Let's take a look at that again. Coca-Cola pop-off here, and it started after killing JY, so it's a 4v5 situation already. Jong trying his best, doing something from the backline, but the fight in general happened towards this mid lane area where Core and your Lux rather is as well getting targeted already. So if your backline isn't having the fun time at the backline rather, then you're in trouble.
Penguin actually buys quite a decent bit of time there.
Yeah.
Just enough for Core to Valkyrie away. A little bit concerning here for T1, but they are no strangers to this position. Been in this one 2 times before. BDG might just go down. 7 comes in with the counter-strike. JY starts to run in here. Random is going to come through with the Cyclone and a lot of damage here on the Core. Core needs to find his way out. BDG as well, but BDG's gone down. JY follows after as well. They manage to trade back for 1 onto Random, but Penguin starts running away. Core can only watch as his support goes down. But he's left there for too long. Stays, overstays. 7 lifts to the shield from Snitch, and 4 down the side of T1.
Oh my god, 4-1-4 already for 7. Look at that, look at RIX right now, winning every single team fight, every single skirmish. T1, 0 angles to enter these fights, 0 chance to poke using the Corki, using the Lux, it don't matter. 7 just jumps in, Clue follows after. Let's take a look at that again. This is T1 wanting to start a fight with a light binding. 7 doesn't care, disengage from the Xin Zhao. He doesn't care, he's just gonna keep hammering down with his slam on your faces.
Yeah, the big problem here is BDG going down so quickly, right?
Yeah, I think that's the issue. If your carries, your backline carries, cannot deal DPS safely,
Oh my goodness.
no
Core
time, this is what's gonna happen to you.
dancing around at the edge of 7's range. But guess what? You were in his range.
There's no range if you're in your face, if you're in the Corki, if you're in Core's face. That's sad.
Yeah, trying to dance outside 7's range. Who do you think you are? 7's gonna get you.
That's gonna keep happening time and time again. He is well equipped. Having that wit's end as well just to counter all the magic damage on the side of T1. The burst BDG has that Lux power as well. So I'm liking the adaptation and itemizations as well for this match.
Core did just use this package there. I do believe that was in response to them getting wiped. Wanted to join back into the map quickly. Prevent RIX from picking up the Baron, so being able to go to the top side there. BDG wants to get in a spot of travel, but managed to find the bind. Onto the Jax, but he cannot finish off 7. Jong Joyce in, will not be able to use his ultimate. JY comes in, Penguin does so as well. But the damage so far away, it's only down to the 2 engages to win the fight for their team. But T1 will see Penguin fall.
Remember what we talked about, Grandin, about how when RIX has a strong early game, they gotta make sure that it's a beyond 5K threshold of a gold lead up against T1. And they're doing it, they're pushing their lead. That was the issue last time when they went up against T1 for the very first time. Getting the early lead, but unfortunately not pushing it further. And now they're doing it!
RIX prepared to get the revenge after losing to T1 the last time around.
And it's such an important match too. This is elimination round, this is elimination match. Whoever wins this series will get to live, to continue their journey rather in the Icons. And
yeah.
T1 loses, then as we said, there's only going to be 1 representative from the WCK.
RIX, of course, having to hold on to a heavy mantle as well. They need to prove the WREC's abilities on the international stage, having one more team going forward. To bolster those odds are always going to be a nice one. T1 behind by 6,000. See the other Drake coming up as an opportunity.
Yeah, this is the biggest test, right? WCK T1 always wins towards Elder Drake fights. This is it.
There we go. Fight starts. They're trying to get to the back line. Jong jumps in, uses the next ultimatum, but he's going to get cancelled by the stasis. Still over by the back line. You just need a little bit more damage to finish off Doom. Doom flashes away.
Whoa!
Gets out. Precision will not be able to finish him off, but finally manages to take him down with a tactical sweep, but left alone isolated on the turret. Jong ultimately falls. Clue picks him up along with the help of Snitch.
There you go. Jungler gone, JY gone, Jong gone, and Doom is the only one gone.
They need a little bit more damage, but BDG, when you hit the light binding, you get in range of 7 as well, and that's all RIX need. They find their revenge, get the Prime Gaming ace, and a chance to close out the game.
Well, hello, who needs the Elder Dragon when we win the game? Many death timers. RIX is gonna have it and going 1-0 in this series.
T1 thought they had a chance with the Elder Drake to fight for that one, for their lives in this game, but RIX take game number 1 in the elimination series.
Oh my word, they're match point 1 win away again from continuing their journey in the Icons, and that's such a big deal.
So,
Yes, well, I want to say that especially the fact that they lost 0-2 against T1 on their first series.
my suspicion is maybe TJ was right. Snitch coming back in has given them the buff they need to go on stage and take on any opponent.
That is true. That is true. I think that's massive. That's a massive buff, right? Because during the entirety of the play-ins, RIX was having Snitch play from a different place.
Yeah,
no, not in
the
the
isolation
stage.
room. You know, you still have the communication there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, but you know, the morale, the kind of energy that's going on, you don't have that same kind of stage presence, realistically, right?
Yeah, it's really different. It's really different, Gwendon.
And a lot to look forward to. West RIX take 1-0 in this series. They just need one more to keep things going, and I am looking forward to see how they intend to pull that one out. I think T1 need to kind of refresh and look at the second game as another chance. We're going to toss it back over to Mika to break down game number 1 of this amazing series.
It is the revenge of the West here on the final day of play-ins, and as we were watching that series, one thing in particular really stood out, I think. And of course, that was our friend Stuart, who was very happy with what happened. We have to give a massive shout out because he was basically shouting in our ears the entire game. But yes, TJ.
Still fist pumping. Yeah.
Everything. But TJ, you mentioned how, from the draft, early game, everything, RIX kind of had this planned out.
Yeah, this was actually a really impressive game from RIX. The thing I'm always looking for in teams is, what is your game plan? Do you understand what your win conditions are? How are you executing it? How are you disrupting the other team's win conditions? From the draft, you go Jax, you go Ziggs, Wukong. It's very obvious that RIX wanted to reach a late game where they could win a 5v5 team fight, where they could get that combined dive, where you lead in with the Wukong, the Jax, they dive up to the front lines, and everyone else sits behind. The Karma in particular, very good in empowering that exact style of play. And so the entire first 8 minutes or so of the game, RIX play very carefully, take some slower trades, make sure they're not in a position where T1 can punish them, especially into stuff like a Xin Zhao, that's very scary. And once they come online, what do we get? We get 7 on the Jax, heading down to the bottom lane, setting up for those first big kills, the first major team fights, and the ball keeps rolling.
And it was really almost in the same style as Flash Wolves from the game 1 of that series, where they answered a lot of T1's early aggression, something that honestly we had been missing since coming into Icons. When we first analyzed T1 going into the play-in stage, I called T1 to be one of the more aggressive Korean teams that really contrasted more of the late game favoritism that Quagga, for instance, Rolster would. They showed the early aggressive stuff from mainly JY on the Xin Zhao. However, as you said, RIX, they said, okay, you know what, it's fine. We're gonna give up the unnecessary objectives and these structures here. We're gonna take fights that are, yes, they favor T1, but we're not going to give as much resources in response. And then this is what happens, right? 7 comes online and he's a big boy.
Yeah, 7 came online on the Jax, and we're seeing a repeating pattern, and I think this is probably a combination of, okay, you're playing on stage, and so it's easier to make those errors, it's harder to take risks and feel good about it, and the way that the meta is shifting, where every time teams are running these compositions where the setup is very obvious on stage. One team is running Jax, they're going to wait for the late game. One team is running Xin Zhao, they're going to try and blow out the early game. Xin Zhao Lux, like very strong early game composition. The early game compositions are not gaining enough ground. And I do think the stage nerves are probably a factor in that. Historically, it is very hard to play early game compositions at major events. The game just kind of biases towards the late game because everyone's playing a little bit more carefully. But also, I think we are seeing a very serious case be made for the correct way to play the game at this event being Ziggs, being late game scaling, being Jax in your jungle, and RIX just delivered a picture-perfect demonstration of that.
At least that is, unless you're a WRL team. It seems like they can just play whatever they want, you know? Because the gap between them, at least when it comes to teams like JDG and Nova, who have consistently played so many aggressive junglers like the Lee Sin and the Xin Zhao towards just smashing the early game and leaving no ground.
That's right. And right now it just feels like, TJ, you mentioned on-stage nerves. Kind of like the reverse for RIX because it's more like on-stage confidence now, especially that Snitch is back.
I have to say, I really did feel the presence of Snitch here. I don't know if maybe that's the placebo effect, I don't know what's going on, but the fact that Snitch is on stage with them, and this is the game where all of a sudden they're playing really confidently, their fights look super organized, I believe that the presence of Snitch as that capable, experienced leader on the team is a major factor in that.
I totally agree. And right now we can see, the graph right now. And
wait, tell the audience how bad it was. I'm standing there next to Stuart, and you see that initial ramp where like, there's this slight lead over to T1, but it's okay because T1's like hyper early game, and RIX are doing pretty well. They've got like Jax, Ziggs. Stuart lost all faith. Stuart's next to me, he's like, it's over, man. We're down 2,000 gold.
You know, the funny thing
like, it's fine, Stuart.
It was like a first blood or two, and then Sword just turns over. Oh, it's so doomed, man. It's so doomed. I just can't believe we're going to game 2 next. It's so doomed. Pack it up, boys. We're going back home.
That's literally what happened. And, this basically is the graph here of Stuart's emotions throughout that whole game. And as we can see, like, I mentioned to him, like, we can literally
Can you give me one more?
grab anything that he said, and we wouldn't find out who was winning.
One more.
Just because of how emotional he was. We need
Oh, there you go! Get him! Get him all!
That is the best. Okay, we need you guys to cast a RIX game once again. Once we get into groups, and if indeed that does happen, but it looks like RIX are on the right way, are on the right path, and right now you guys can actually see what we're talking about because we do have a clip here of Stuart.
Oh yes,
on this
please.
emotional roller coaster.
There he is.
Okay, this was starting up.
It's like, okay.
And this is where you can see how quickly he's talking. He's saying stuff like, okay, this is really good because they've got this angle, and he's
so
burned
good.
flash, and
It's
so it's
so
a 1-4
bad.
trade, and he's like constantly, and then he leans in, he's like, oh, I'm so stressed, we're losing.
Anxiety setting in. He's like,
Oh, it's doomed.
It's so
It's
doomed.
over, all right, that was pretty good. Oh, there we go.
And there's Degon saying like, oh my God, you're really...
See, I mean, Degon is just cackling because he's just enjoying the polarity, the extreme polarity of Stuart's reactions, where it's just going, oh, we're winning,
all the way up,
we're
it's all the way up, and then it's all the way down.
It's so doomed. We've lost. Go to game 2.
That's hilarious, and you can't see.
You're not allowed to do that.
He's losing it.
You're not
You can't
allowed
see
to do
TJ in that clip because TJ said, "I can't stand next to you. I can."
I had to write notes. It was too distracting. I was on the emotional roller coaster with him. If I stood next to him, I got sucked in.
See, Stuart is experiencing what the NA fans were experiencing during the Sentinels and the Kwangdong Freeze.
No, he was experiencing something else.
Well, before
I wasn't an NA fan during that series. He was experiencing something else.
before this becomes a Stuart emotional roller coaster breakdown here, we're about to jump into game number 2. We're gonna get another one.
Yes.
We're probably gonna get another emotional roller coaster here. So we're
than
gonna
likely.
stand next to Stuart and get you guys, probably another clip of what went on. Maybe, hopefully this time with sound bites, I think. Or like so uneasy.
We
It's like,
need to
maybe.
mic him, you're right.
Yeah.
I've also been a huge advocate for miking the players, but I've been told that, and I think it's probably true for Stuart as well, we would need a censor. We would need some editing.
Multiple
Definitely,
sensors.
definitely.
Multiple sensors.
But as we head into game number 2, I'm thinking, can RIX pull it off once again, especially now that they have this huge confidence?
I think, like, we should stop talking about RIX as the people who need to change something. They played a really solid game. RIX are in control of this series. The question is T1. And for T1, as the last Korean team still in this play-in stage, obviously you have Rolster waiting in groups, but T1 are the only Korean representative left after KDF got knocked out yesterday by North America. So, huge pressure on them from their region, and they just played something that's supposed to be their bread and butter, the kind of early game that beat so many other teams in Korea. But they're playing against RIX, and RIX played the late game scaling, so their choices are twofold. Either double down, go back into the early game, play it more aggressively, or, and I think this is the better option given the way that our on-stage games have gone, pull out a late game comp, play to the Korean meta, and beat RIX at their own game in game number 2.
If T1 want to call back to something that gave them a lot of confidence in their series win against RIX, it was play towards the late game and be the ones that have better understanding of when to execute, when to call for a team fight that could be game-ending.
RIX, I will say RIX looks so much like smarter today on stage. That feels very mean to say. But the decision making they were making around objectives, the way that they called that rotate down to the bottom lane, means that T1 aren't going to be able to beat them the same way they did the first time. You're not going to be able to get to the late game and just win a lucky team fight. You have to be prepared to match them during early game. You have to be prepared to throw something like a Jax off of its scaling.
And that's the thing. This isn't an in-game thing that I'm feeling from RIX. This is like full-out confidence from them. And of course, now that they're all complete, they have everything. They were able to get that sort of sacrificial game in for the first and second day of the play-ins, for the first batch of the play-ins. Now they have everything they need to seal this victory. The big question, as you mentioned, TJ, is on T1.
Yeah, looking at these picks so far, T1 banning out so many of the things RIX are scary with. They're getting rid of the Kha'Zix, one of Seven's favorite champions. They're banning out Jace, they're banning out Singed. And then the first pick. They're going hard in the early game. This is Lucian. This is a statement that we're going to win as quickly as possible, and we're going to make sure RIX don't get to those team fights that looked so scary.
And if you go back to the WCK regional playoff stage, T1 in their upper bracket finals against Rolster Y, while they didn't win out the series, the 2 games that they won, it was off the back of BDG's Lucian. I don't want to see a Lucian mid for core. I know we've seen a lot of Lucian with the Hull Breaker, but if you give BDG the tools with the Nami,
Lucian Nami!
Lucian Nami, this is all-in Dragon Lane. This is going for hard pressure under the tower. If JY can find a jungler that's not the Wukong, something that like a Lee Sin or a Xin Zhao, you dive the lane early and you snowball the game from there.
If we've seen one thing this tournament, it's that it's hard to dig something like a Ziggs out from behind turret. The Ziggs can sit back there and clear away of no troubles in the world. One of the few things that can find kills behind turrets is Lucian Nami. Long-range bubbles, lockdown targets. Lucian, even during the early game, can burn them down.
So it looks as though T1 are ready for this fight. It looks like they're about to take the fight to RIX as well.
And it's forced an adaptation from RIX. Yep. Rather than doubling down on the late game as they did during the first game, they've drafted Lee Sin. They've given themselves tools on 7 to contest the early game and build a bridge to that late game they're looking for.
And you can see that RIX are starting to take away some of the early agency options from T1 as well. Core, his signature Ahri.
Yeah.
7 picks overall in the WCK, something that could have paired alongside an aggressive jungler. And the Shen as well. A Baron laner, while it can hold on to something like a Camille in the early stage of the game, it's not used for the split push. It's used to create pressure on a side lane so that you are forced to use the Stand United and overwhelm, create a numbers advantage to get objectives down.
Really good draft from RIX, so the question's hanging over T1. What do you draft in the top lane? What do you draft in the mid lane? They are connected. The top lane is either going to be what you're playing through, or more likely in a composition with Lucian Nami on the bottom side left alone. I'm looking for something like a Garen or a Darius in that top lane that can operate on their own devices. What do you have in the mid lane? Hopefully something that can roam, that can play like the Ari, get out of that mid lane and either find isolated kills there or show up in the bottom lane to bolster your Lucian army.
I personally would advocate for the Wukong, swap it over to the Baron lane. It might not be the best matchup into the Camille, like a Garen or a Darius that holds on, but I want something that has hard crowd control before level 5. Wukong Cyclone is great, but you have to dive the Ziggs early on against the Gragas, because if you don't bring enough CC, if you don't bring enough early game power with something like a Xin Zhao, you can't get this Lucian Nami properly snowballed.
Yeah, the Wukong stands out in this composition right now. It's a late game pick and not one that looks good in any of these roles. We do get the Garen as I was asking for, which means that it's going to be jungle Wukong, and we're going to get Riven mid.
Yes!
Core doubling down on the early game. He's going to be brawling, he's going to be fighting, he's going to be looking for kills as T1 try to keep Korea alive in this play-in stage.
And this is going to be massive indeed. T1, as I mentioned, they look like they are ready to take that fight. You see all of these champions, they are ready to brawl indeed. RIX, though, on the other side, they're just one game away from cementing this. Look at this composition right here.
Where
Rafa.
does the Camille go? Oh, it's Renekton mid. It's Renekton mid.
We're getting a Riven.
Renekton mid into Riven.
Riven, Renekton
Now,
mid.
Core can play Garen mid lane. The question is, can RIX follow the Riven with the Renekton? Can they get that matchup specifically?
And can they win these fights? Which is what this game is going to come down to, as RIX try to knock Korea out of play-ins and advance to the group stage with one more win.
And right now, we can see Stuart very, very happy with that as he's pumping his fist up in the air. But right now, I'm thinking this is going to be a brawl.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be the fastest paced game that we've seen from these two teams yet.
This is my favorite kind of draft. Neither team got what they wanted. Both teams had to adapt mid-draft to what was happening. It's going to be messy, it's going to come down to mechanics, and it could go either way.
Well, I hope you guys are ready for this brawl fest indeed. Grandun and Riku, I combined your names over there and made some kind of like weird shoutcast. Grandu? I don't know. It sounds weird. Grandu, over to you.
Granku.
Hi, Grandon.
Hi, Granku.
Well, Grand do be casting here with Riku as we go into our RIX.GG and T1 game. RIX so very close to taking T1 down. They're just that one game away, Riku.
Yeah, and it's so possible for RIX. It felt like everything from game 1 now to game 2, especially getting that Lee Sin, meaning that they can do what RIX does, is that big early game for them and maneuver around the map, get early kills.
And part of that is going to come in with the exhaust on the Doom and the auto attacks and the early dominance. That's what it is. It's early dominance.
Early dominance, because on the other side of the spectrum, T1, BDG, Penguin pick up a very strong early game dual lane, which is gonna be extra aggressive, right? You dash in as BDG with Illusion, then you have Ebb and Flow with the bubble, with everything basically, and poor Doom has to basically defend from all of that. Especially when we look back at the WCK, BDG has used Lucian up against Rolster Y. I remember BDG dashing forward 1v1 against Zero. He was on a Zed and killed him under tower. This is T1 bringing out the big guns, relying on BDG to carry this game this time around.
I mean, they absolutely do, right? You look back to the WCK as a region, so much emphasis on those traditional marksmen between players like Luna, BDG as well. They definitely have big shoes to fill.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's why I like it when Clue picked up the Gragas, right? Because this will prevent a potential dive that BDG can possibly set up. You look at JY here on the Wukong, that's what I'm thinking. Early dive to set up for BDG again. So if T1 is able to get BDG in an early lead, I feel like RIX can be in big trouble. Look, just as I said!
And they will do exactly that, make their way down to the bottom end. Caught out by the control water on the way there though, so unfortunately you're gonna have to back away. Now RIX might try to fight for the Scuttle Crab, but it's walking away from them. There's no point going for that.
Yeah, RIX sees this coming. And you don't want to risk it. You don't want to lose that early game. Because that's their rail. That's their support right now. That's what they're relying to win this game. In the meantime, though, for RIX, we saw 7 earlier on the Jax being that scaling carry. But this time around, he's the opposite. He's the one setting up for random and Snitch this time around for this Renekton. Renekton mid, by the way. So if ever this snowballs again, which I feel like can be a little bit difficult because you're up against Koros and a Garen, who's supposed to not die during the laning phase. So I feel like Seven and Snitch should find kills elsewhere. And you know what that means? Skirmishes and possible fights at Rift Herald and Dragon.
Nobody really gets exactly what they want, so they're just going to have to make do with what they have. That being said, though, it will be very interesting to see what happens once those early objectives come up, if any team is able to find a lead before that happens. Last game, didn't really quite see that happen, despite T1's attempts. Shut down very well on the side of RIX.
Yeah, T1 again has to be outside of their comfort zone. Game 1 didn't pan out too well, even though their composition spelled, you know, early to mid game. But this time it's very clear that this is early to mid as well, with BDG winning the laning phase. But when we go towards the late game, Doom on this Ziggs is going to be incredibly scary, and no one can reach him. BDG on this Lucian is very short range, so I think that's going to be the issue in the Elder Drake fights.
Gotta keep Doom alive. If Doom is able to keep outputting damage, T1 just genuinely don't have a way to respond to that. For now, though, we do see a bit of a lull in the game. Nothing too surprising. That being said, though, RIX do have quite a few aggressive options. Despite that, ooh, look at that. Look at that deep vision.
Yeah, earlier game 1, T1 entirely all control wards in their inventory. They've switched up their trinkets already, but you gotta like it, right? They're keeping an eye on Seven to make sure that they don't set up tower dives on Zhong on this Riven.
Yeah, keep track of RIX. You know,
Yeah.
they got all the data. Know exactly what they're gonna do.
It's very important because RIX wants to move early. They're so good at this early
look at
game. Yeah.
Zhong spots out 7 on the way over. The 7 is unsure if he wants to get back into the brush.
It's a little bit difficult, right? Because Riven is super slippery, outplay potentially that 1v2. No summoners burned yet by random here for Zhong, so might as well. Second attempt, though, for this bot lane dive.
Yeah, round 2. They do have a bit of a wave coming in, but again, will be spotted out by 2 wards on the way over. Trying to trade back a little here as RIX gets a little bit of damage onto JY on the exit.
I like how RIX is playing this game because they know who else they're going to play around with. They know that every single time if T1 sees an opportunity, they want to give kills to BDG. That's through tower dives, that's through fights. 20 seconds on the clock for the next objective, for the first spawn rather, and that means it's go time. This is the time where BDG should get kills. Yes, Storm Razor, that's an early game pickup. He needs to get kills right now.
Yeah, RIX doing such an amazing job denying T1's attempts. Twice in the bottom side, once in the top side. Shut down entirely. Objectives come up now. We see T1 move into the mid lane first. They want to try and focus the dragon, as is typical of WCK fashion.
It's a trade. It's gonna be a trade. So we'll see if T1 will try again during the laning phase, but if RIX is able to get that Rift Herald for themselves, that's an easy first blood tower because you've got the Ziggs to finish off with a satchel.
Rift Herald goes over to RIX, and it's like you mentioned, Doom has a very easy time clearing out a turret with the satchel when they need it. I want to think a little bit bigger picture here, Riku. T1 going into this, they just need to take one more game away. RIX have already managed to find that first game. I might have to hold that thought the moment I start saying that. RIX and T1 trade in the bottom side.
Yeah, this is incredibly important. RIX is one game away. Literally one game away, and it feels like they're doing every single thing to deny T1 from getting the early game that they needed for BDG. And it's just going so well, and it's looking really scary for T1 at the moment.
And RIX had a difficult opponent before this as well. Getting to this point, I mean, it just seems like T1, well, if they lose here now, RIX picked up a huge momentum boost going into the group stage. I'm looking forward to see how that one plays out. For now, though, making their way up towards the top end of the map. T1 again, stifled here. We'll look for a dive here as they try to move in onto Clue. Clue still alive. The Calling God will finish him off. You watch as Zhong sits at the very edge of the Hextech ultimatum, but still taken down by Doom.
You can tell how frustrated T1 is. Like, we need kills for BDG right now. Let's move towards top lane. We didn't get it on towards the first objective spawn, but then it backfires. RIX played that so well.
Rotero comes in. They want to find a fight in the mid side. RIX walking forward. Will get punished as random flashes away. Has to use his hook shot as well. JY trying to chase after 7, but too far away. The safeguard will keep him out of range.
RIX not dying. at this point of the game.
So frustrating.
It is, I know, for G1. And the fact that they're the ones instead who gave them first blood, it must be so frustrating at the moment. So now, this is going to be a little bit awkward, right? Because T1 either has to wait for the next objective to spawn, but that's going to take too long. They got to make proactive plays, but you know what's making dives so difficult right now? Doom Sigs! Wave clear, wave clear, wave clear. Where's the wave clear from T1? It's non-existent. BDG as solution? That doesn't spell wave clear. That spells that you're going to have a hard time setting up dives and getting priority.
Yeah, just cannot keep up with what RIX is able to get done. The macro gameplay here, RIX reinvigorated coming into the series, and they're looking so much better in the macro game, have fixed so many of their issues. And T1 having a difficult time trying to keep up, very frustrated. I can imagine going up against RIX, who have been able to deny their attempts time in and time out. T1 unable to accrue an advantage beyond the narrow gold advantage they have.
Now this must feel so great for RIX right now.
Yeah, RIX have really been able to identify exactly what needed to be done to deal with these problems here. JY trying to stop 7 from getting in. The wave will start to crash now.
Oh,
joins in the fight. A big cyclone gets the knock up. 7 over the back. But JY, he flashes away. He leaves the Lee Sin alone. He won't be able to finish the kill.
No one's dying, Brandon! No one refuses to die! That was so close!
Was so close to a kill there. And now it's been caught out.
Uh-oh.
Punished.
Wait, what's the
Hextech ultimatum onto the wrong target. Ignite down onto JY. The body slam and the auto attack for the kill finally going over the RIX.
This is looking so good for RIX right now. 8 minutes into the game, 2 kills. That is a good sign. Because if you don't see numbers on T1 side, you don't see kill numbers on their side, that's such a good sign for RIX.
RIX had to fight tooth and nail to get back to this point now in this series. Are looking very strong. Second turret going over there, and T1 do manage to trade for the bomb side one though. But it's still RIX here, trying to get into this late game where they are so much stronger.
The timer for T1 is the Elder Drain. They don't get an early lead and get BDG snowballing. Actually, right now it's really awkward for T1's composition, especially for BDG. Doom is going to deal a lot of damage later, and this is the reason why T1 wants to fight this. They got to get kills, triple kill, quadra kill for BDG, like right in this fight.
There wasn't a fight for the last objective, but maybe this time will be different. They start to move in here. JY tries to find the engage first. RIX start to back away. The Rip Tower finally goes over to 7. In the meantime, T1 have yet to find an avenue in. RIX doing an amazing job defending.
RIX is doing everything right, and now that they get the Rift Herald, denying more possible turrets for T1 to get back in to infuse more gold to BDG. They're now in position for this. Look at the position of 7 though.
Dragon coming in as well. Yeah, 7's far away, but JY is even further. And so as you look at this fight, 3 versus 3, fighting by the river, looking for some control. Jong gets kicked away by the Dragon Rage. A big spell used early.
Yeah, definitely not going to be available for this objective. The Mountain Drake.
Here we go. They get a catch on the Snitch.
Oh.
Flash on the turret. Still goes down.
Really nice pick there from T1. We'll see if RIX fights back. It's a 4v5 though.
Opens up some space. I think T1 are looking for the Dragon now instead.
Oh, this is going to be awkward. 18 seconds. No Snitch. 4v5.
Mid turret very difficult to fight for. RIX still looking for an entry and go back in. The Redemption is going to come down. T1 top up to nearly full off of that. And the Dragon finally goes over to T1. A second for them.
This is going to be important for T1, right? The stacking Dragons. We know that the WCK, T1 as well, of course, being so good at Elder Drake fights. And then winning the game through that big 50-50, that explosive team fight in that area.
I mean, you said they had that Elder Drake as their timer. T1
Yeah.
are really looking to stack up for it, and it's looking to be an Elder Inferno here, Riku.
Yeah, that's a scary part, right? As I say that's a WCK special. That's how they win games. But the biggest question is, does their composition even make that a solution now? Make that even a route now for them to win? And it feels that's a no.
Can RIX just overpower that entirely?
And it could be possible because that's Doom there on the Ziggs. Again, we talked about Ziggs.
Get that
Snitch is
first
going
knock
down.
off. A beautiful combo here from John to finish off that kill. Culling not able to find a smart. Doom flashes away far enough in time. Still looking for a gauge here. 7 very close but blocked by the minion.
T1 wanting to get a kill off of Doom, but they get a kill off of Snitch. 4v5 across the map. That means they can take down towers, have enough space. I like this as we get to look at the gold. Granted, 10k gold on BDG, the highest earning in this game at the moment, and this is working. Look how they're infusing so much gold onto BDG. If he cannot get kills, I'm just gonna get turret plates, and that's how I'm gonna get gold.
Yeah, turret plates, jungle camps, everything he can find in between, and somehow accruing a pretty good lead over Doom here. But it's like you said, Doom, no one can touch him.
Yeah.
He's so far away. He's back home, right? He's back home in his couch, lobbing out the bombs. T1 are like, I can't go there. That's too far away.
Exactly. That's how comfy he is, right? He's sipping some tea, just chilling at the backside. And the fact that he's building, he has a tier in his inventory, that means he's gonna have Seraph's Embrace eventually, and that's gonna keep him extra safe. And he carries an exhaust in his pocket. BDG dashes in, boom, I got an exhaust to keep him safe.
Yeah, between the Hourglass, between the Seraph's Embrace that's soon to come, the exhaust, I mean, even with an assassin, it would be difficult. Here now, you don't have that option. Reptile popped in the bottom side. Core starts to walk in, is going to get spotted out by Snitch. They are maybe looking for a fight. Tidal Wave comes in, but it's going to be too far away. Only managed to clip out Doom, but he still managed to find him. Still in range for now. RIX start to run away, but Snitch caught out in the process. They get back under mid-turret. Clue very close to going down, but Beautiful Dragon's Rage through the members of T1 blocked their engage.
I love how we exactly talked about how to reach Doom. That's how you reach Doom. You clear a path by using the Tidal Wave straight to the Bomberman.
And now looking to get some work done on the turret. A beautiful bubble. The silence here on the random. Hexagon made him out to buy some time, but he falls nonetheless.
And just like that, T1 takes back the game state that we were so concerned about. We talked about how, okay, BDG, not getting a lot of kills, but let's take a look at this first. This is exactly what T1 wanted to do, right? Tidal Wave, a clear path. Satchel doesn't work for Doom and help him. And they just really pummeled the hurt onto Doom. Focused every single hurt and pain onto him. And that's their mission. Mission accomplished, no Doom, no problem.
Needs a back massage after that one. A lot of pain, a lot of hurt. Needs a massage. Reptile was free hitting in the bot side while all that was happening. And so I do believe it got close to the turret, but blocked by the minions on the way there. So that might have been... Yeah, I think that was not a Herald charge. I think it went down to the bot side, but did not manage to get the charge off.
And that is quite unfortunate. And now for T1,
really unfortunate.
It is very sad when the...
You trade Rift Channel for Dragon and you don't get anything out of it, but I suppose a good fight here is they won't manage to find BDG. BDG is going to use his Hourglass here. The rest of his team has to come in to try and save him, keep him alive. We saw what happened when Doom went down the last time around. So now you lose your own marksman, your own carry. What can you get done? Apparently the answer is a lot. John rushes in, flashes in, gets a knock up, a stun on the 7 and random, taking them both down. Clue off by the side will fall as well. Stitch gets hit by the silence, gets hit by the stun. His dominance runs out and Doom left packing, leaving Stitch alone as T1 find 4 on the bot side.
And that was RIX trying to find an angle to eliminate BDG. Yes, they were able to, but the follow-up...
You can't stay here!
He can't!
You have the satchel charge, but it's not gonna be enough, right? The exhaust onto Jong, trying to keep him off you, but he's hunting you down, chasing you so quickly. Ebb and flow, they managed to find the movement speed in the tide, and the Aqua Prison, the bubble, the knock-up gives them the Prime Gaming ace.
That's crazy, and it equals into a Baron. This is such a snowballing domino effect. Turn of events, it all started with RIX wanting to get BDG's life. Yes, he is one of the biggest problems. 13k gold lead, 13k gold rather, but at the end of the day, they exhausted all their resources just to kill one target, and this enabled T1 to fight back. They were able to get Jong on a couple of kills in this fight, and not only that, they get Baron to boot. That's crazy.
He was bait all along.
It was!
BDG was bait all along. You thought you had him. Baron goes over to T1. Now Ocean Drake likely go over to RIX here. JY tries to rush into the pit.
Tidal Wave.
Out of range, kicked away by 7. But the Tidal Wave starts to come through. JY stuck in the Hextech, automated, but they have the damage coming through. Now BG fully online. A double kill out for the Lucian. He's here to play and a triple out for T1.
There we go. That's the answer. BDG triple kill, getting the Dragon, getting the Baron. Now they can push. A lot of death timers. Only Doom there to defend.
The minion wave starting to come in, but they do not need it. Core is so tanky at this point in the game. The teleports come through, and T1 with renewed vigor will pull this series 1-1.
Oh, what a series we have here, Grandin. So crazy. There were a little bit of concern on the early game from T1, but at the end of the day, BDG not getting a lot of kills early, not a problem. I'll just farm the jungle, farm all the turret plates. That's exactly what they needed to even out what they couldn't get in the early game.
But RIX showed us very good discipline in the early game. They were
True.
able to shut down a lot of the attempts from T1. Something that I could not have said they would have been able to do the last time they faced off. They have managed to identify a lot of the issues they've had since then. Coming back into the last day of play-ins, were able to give T1 a very good fight, Riku.
Yeah, RIX read T1 so well. They knew what to do. They knew what to stop. And that was BDG. But they couldn't stop the farming. They couldn't stop how BDG was roaming around the map, finding turret plates, finding all of these jungle camps. And it worked so well. At the end of that game, I believe BDG, again, was consistently be the highest earning when it comes to gold in that game. And that helped so much when the team fight came.
Wow. Well, T1 pull back 1-1 in the series. We're going to toss it back over to Mika to see what the desk has to say about that one. Rafa, I want to hear what Stuart had to say as well. Hi, TJ.
Hi, TJ.
Oh,
Wait, say hi to me too. Why'd you scrand it?
He threw it to me. I feel honored. Thank you, Grandin. Hey, but, yo, Grandin, you're looking fresh in the fit, bro.
Thank you. You guys too. You guys too.
Oh,
Riku was also looking
Look at that.
Oh,
fit.
thank you.
They're
Good.
color coordinated. The beige and the white, really fresh.
Well, you two color coordinated, but didn't tell me.
We did.
We did.
You just
We didn't
you
listen.
ignored us.
Oh.
It, as
Well,
with most
I'm
things.
kind of TJ's inner shirt, so like that's what we're trying to
You
go
sure?
for.
I I was color coordinating with the caster.
There you
Right.
go. There you go.
Okay.
Good save.
That's true. Good save. Yeah. Sure. That's what you were trying to do. But yeah, since Grandon specifically wants to know, Rafa, what you thought about that match, I'm thinking we're in a little bit of trouble because we predicted RIX.
Well, I'm happy to actually tee it off to TJ because we're going to be talking about the same thing. It is BDG Lucian all day.
And because I did predict T1, the early game for T1 was all about BDG, and I was a little bit worried for them. I think I said to you, Mika, this looks really bad from T1. They have this incredibly aggressive bottom side, this Nami, this Lucian that you expect to try and take over the game early, and they did nothing of the sort. Instead, T1 played the rest of the map, built space and time, and the things they did to benefit from that space and time were BDG just kind of left the bottom lane when there wasn't a wave there, killed Krugs, killed nearby jungle camps, got the maximum amount of gold, and when there were early fights, BDG, playing a different video game, working away at the bottom side of the map. That bottom side control gave them an early dragon, again, a lot of the gold from that onto BDG, got them an early turret, a lot of the gold from that onto BDG, and it created this weird game state around the 8-minute mark, where they were behind in the game, but BDG had the most gold anyone has ever seen on a single AD carry. And that is this incredible statement of trust from the team on their AD carry player. And thankfully, for T1, it worked out.
It was all or nothing.
T1
basically.
struck with BDG at precisely the right moment. See, the thing is, when you look back at the WCK playoffs, upper finals against Rolster Y, 2 games of Lucian, combined KDA of 7.5. You go down to the third place qualifier, 2 Icons against GP, 3 games of Lucian, 3 straight wins. The combined KDA was at least over 8. I don't remember the exact number on that.
Bigger than 8.
That's pretty damn good numbers there.
Sure.
And there's a reason why that the BDG Lucian was something that I was looking forward to when we saw such high Lucian priority in the play-in stage early on. But the fact that they didn't go to it until now, I mean, this is the moment to do it.
You're on an elimination game, you pull out the pocket picks, and there were 2 of them, right? Yes, the Lucian, huge part of why the Lucian worked, but also the Nami, also a huge part of why the Lucian worked. Because every single fight Penguin was landing bubbles, every single fight Penguin was landing the CC to make sure that there were the perfect opportunities for that gold to start snowballing, at which point Core, yes, can come online. That massive Garen in the front line just running the map for those late game team fights helps again create space for your big carry.
And we do know that BDG is definitely one of the star players of T1 over here.
Yeah.
On the side of RIX, though, I am just really curious as to how they can bounce back, especially since now T1 seems to have found something against them. It's going to make the third game really
Mika,
messy.
I got an answer for you. You ready? Yeah,
I'm ready.
You're not gonna expect it coming.
I'm not gonna expect it.
You're
Sure.
really like this answer is so radical. It's gonna blow your
I'm
mind.
starting to expect it.
Yeah. You got it. Bandolution. Boom. Woo! Woo! RIX are back in it.
Why
boys.
do I have a job? You can do all the analysis for me.
You do have to give up one of the 3 bans afterwards, though, and so something like either a Singed or Yumi Karma would be hitting the open fields to be picked up by T1.
I think banning dilution is pretty good advice, and I will be interested to see if RIX take it. I think the other thing that they can do is just be aware of what is happening during the early game. I want to see them make a conscious shift towards identifying what T1 were doing, because it is very obvious that they wanted BDG to get farm, and I understand, because I was sitting there too, the idea of, oh, well, we don't really care if the Lucian gets gold. Why would we worry about the Lucian getting gold? But now you know BDG pulls it off. This time around, it should be pretty simple to realize if they're stacking gold on BDG again and punish it. I think you ban the Lucian in-game as well as out-of-game. It just requires a little bit more ganking.
I think, though, what we can also take away from this is that if you look at BDG, if you look at Doom, look at the damage output, they weren't that far away. But I feel like RIX just here, they were just caught out in the wrong moments. You saw so many times that T1 caught them out when they weren't expecting it, and they took advantage of that completely.
And it's what TJ said about T1. They were starting to run out of time of when to strike hard with this Lucian, because at a certain point, Ziggs gets to eclipse that damage with longer range and far safer ways to engage in fights, because the Mega Inferno Bomb is a semi-global ult. But the fact that BDG is able to match, if not output more damage than the Ziggs at that point in the game speaks to how instrumental that pick is for this composition.
And well, we talked earlier during the draft in the last game about how it seemed like neither team got what they want. Turns out T1 were willing to work with what they got. They had a pretty good plan that was all about that bottom lane. And I think RIX got screwed, is what we found out. And during that draft, there was a little bit of a moment I caught. I'm going to do some pop psychology. Clue looked kind of nervous during that opening draft. It looked almost frustrated as the draft was beginning. And you see, like, a little bit of arguing on the team. It makes me wonder if that's a one-off. We got caught out by this pick was really good. This Lucian was very powerful. We're now stuck in between compositions with this Lee Sin for the early game and the rest of our draft pointing late game. How does that work out coming into game number 3? Can they find a composition they're more comfortable with?
Well, for them, they're going to have to... Hopefully they can get to the next game and they have a chance to sit down with their coach, calm down, remember that how they won in game 1, the fashion that they did it, go back to basics, go back to the style of comfort. If T1 are starting to assemble a composition that looks scary on paper and it's something that they are comforted, you know, yes, you can go for the adaptations, but make sure you're not giving up too much of what made you successful in the first place.
I mean, more than anything else, I just want RIX to be able to come into the game with a game plan. And we didn't realize that this was a full Lucian game from T1. We miscalled that on the desk because nobody has tried it yet. So incredibly well performed by T1. RIX, inarguably, did not get a desired composition. They were stuck between early game and late game. They didn't get their full late game draft. I want to see them come in with a game plan specific to their team and deal with whatever T1 are bringing in-game.
Well, before we find out what that game plan actually is, let's take a look at everybody's game plan at the top of Icons, everybody's predictions for this group, and see how we're doing, especially since we're about to resolve this.
You know what?
I quickly turned tail, didn't I?
You don't want to look at mine. I mean, I got J-Team.
Oh, yeah.
But Vivo Kid was eliminated as one of the first teams, so...
I just want to draw attention to the entire left side here, except for Grandin. Grandin's a good and sensible boy. I want to know what's going on with the J-Team being dropped by the rest of the gang. There's a lack of faith in China that we have learned was misplaced.
I think I know exactly what's going on there, but as we can tell, of course, with our fanboy over here, with Stuart, and all of his emotions that went on that game, I'm very, very eager to stand next to him for this one as we toss this over to Grandin and Riku.
Hi, Grandin.
Hey, Grandin. Hi, Riku.
Hi, Riku. That's how we toss now.
Big fan.
We just say hi.
Hi, Mika. Hi, Rafa. Hi, TJ.
everyone.
Oh, come on.
Okay, fine. Hi, Rafa. Hi, TJ. Hi, Mika.
Why is Mika last?
We know because Rafa said hi to me first.
Was that how it went?
I think so.
Okay. Well, on that side, on the predictions half, you know, some of these guys will get one of these two teams right. The people that picked RIX and T1
Yeah.
will get at least one of them right.
Yeah, it's
So-
not 50-50. It's fine.
No, it's a 100% chance to get at least one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so
All
so
right.
they get definite odds for at least one of them. Very happy for those guys. But I mean, as a when T1 do eventually win this, I will have a 100% prediction rate, right? So
Me too. We
Okay.
voted for the same thing.
we voted for the same thing. We're on the same page here. We're on the same page here. But let's
Exactly.
figure out what T1 want to get done as they are moving into this match point. RIX were there first, and they had that first game win. How can they claw their way back in?
That's the biggest question, right? And I feel like, TJ addressed this in the AD lane, the AD desk rather. It was ban BDG solution. Ban BDG solution. Honestly, it's just too strong. The way that even though they're not finding lane kills, skirmish kills, teamfight kills, they're able to farm the jungle.
Very little success for Lucian in the mid lane, but in the bot side here for BDG, it seems to work out.
Yeah, BDG is just so good on this Lucian, right? We talked about his performance in the WCK, as well as when they went up against RY Rolster. And again, BDG on this Lucian is just too good, so RIX, not surprised if they ban, again, Core's Ari, and as well as the Lucian. Just ban it, take it away.
But RIX do have the blue side, so maybe they want to go for the Lucian themselves on first.
That's true. Snitch can play a Lucian. Doom can play a Lucian as well. That has a lot of flexibility. While you said there is a big problem when it comes to the mid lane for Lucian not finding success, it does still require a very aggressive enchanter support that will allow you to be taken care of and make sure to stay alive.
Well, RIX will get rid of the Ari, Yumi, and Sano as T1 looking at the Jace and the Singed. Lucian on their side, they do not want to give that first pick up.
Yeah, too important on that blue side pick, right? But the Karma is still open for the taking, and that's what RIX is going to pick up. Again, we talked about Karma being paired with a lot of compositions. We're talking about Olaf, we're talking about Jax as well could be open. Honestly, RIX can go for the same game 1 composition where they want.
Honestly, I've seen Jax done incredibly well in multiple situations now. I'm quite a big believer, especially when you have that Karma. I was hoping that T1 would want to take that away first. Doesn't seem to be the case. The Ziggs and Wukong instead.
Yeah, Ziggs again secures your late game. You're basically all set if you have the Ziggs on your side. So this could mean that T1 could be going back to basics, could be going back to the T1 special of fighting in the Elder Drake. So I like this pick from T1.
But let's not forget, Doom also had the Ziggs last game, and somehow T1 were able to get to that Ziggs due to the use of the Nami, due to the use of engage style supports. Well, not even engage style support, and enchanter support. Now they have a full-on engage support.
I know, the tidal wave just sent a straight path to the Ziggs, accessing that backline. So now I want to see T1 on the Gragas. Pick the Gragas here, don't let RIX ban it on the next rotation.
It's not a tidal wave, but the next best thing is the cow running in your face.
Yeah, it's gonna be scary. You need that explosive cast to make sure it's gone, but it seems to me T1 is gonna prioritize his Camille instead. For Zhong, that means you have the Hexic Ultimatum, single target, able to remove immediately who your carry is. Because looking at RIX's composition, all you see are utility, all you see are tanks. For sure, RIX is going for a single threat comp like a Jax once more.
I am very curious what RIX are going to have Doom play. You mentioned how you expect that single carry composition. Does that mean Doom is going to default into like a mage, kind of wave clear? Like, what's the plan here for RIX? Very curious.
They need a wave clear indeed, just as you said.
Yes, the Jax
right?
ban, yes!
Yes, it's gone! Yeah, that's a good call from T1. 7 did... it was so good on the Jax in game number 1, and that's why they won, right? So for RIX now, I feel like they need a wave clear. You know what they need? A Varus. Varus, Doom and Varus is just so good, had an amazing performance, and if you pair that up with a Karma, it basically compensates the lack of mobility that a Varus has with the movement speed.
I'll tell you what, Riku, I am a little bit concerned here for T1. A big part of what they were doing last game was diving the bot side, or trying to dive the bot side. Now, we have Clue on the Alistar. So difficult to dive in Alistar.
Yeah, because when you dive in, you just push them away like, get out of my carry. But that's still the question mark. Who's going to be your carry? Who's going to be at the bottom lane? If it's going to be a Varus, I feel like that's going to be a very vulnerable target. But I feel like that Karma is going to be enough with that movement speed. Oh, is this going to be a Vayne? Oh, please, wait, no. It could be 6 mid still, yeah?
Yeah, it could still be 6 mid. Lulu's come through, pairs well with the Vayne. But it would be a risk on elimination to pull out the Vayne here.
Oh
my BDG
gosh.
They have to see more tanks here. I think that's what the call is. We need to see more tanks on the side of RIX, and RIX continue to double down and engage high, engage tanky champions. Well, I think that is a call for the Vayne, so RIX gotta take it away first.
I love this so much, but that means T1 can pivot into this Varus again, or a Draven even. One of the biggest things that a Vayne is so hard. Why the reason why it's hard to pull up? No! We're going hyper-scaling versus hyper-scaling, baby. This is such a rare occurrence, Grandin. Usually when you see a Vayne on the opposite side, you want to shut them down immediately during the laning phase. But no! BDG says, no, I'm going to fight you with fire.
I do have just a little bit more confidence in T1's fire here. But RIX, they have the wild card, they have the chance to pop off and show us what happens when you have that Vayne in your team. Of course, a lot of easy targets to take down if you are the Vayne here. Not so easy for the Kai'Sa, so maybe that's what they were banking on.
Yeah, I think that's the worry, right? Because if you're aiming for a single target, we talked about this midway draft, right, Brandon? It's all about having that single threat composition, and that's the Vayne. But there's a Camille. Hexic Ultimatum, that is the #1 thing that can immediately lock you down and kill you if you don't have Hourglass, unfortunately. You cannot buy time if you don't have that item yet. Level 5, T1 really has to pull the trigger and shut this down.
All eyes on Doom and BDG. This bot side matchup will determine the fate of these two teams in the Icons Global Championship.
This is so crazy. I love it. This is so poetic, honestly. It's so rare to see hyper-scaling versus hyper-scaling. It is going to be BDG versus Doom, just as you mentioned. This is going to be so hyped. This is going to be crazy. Or this could be 10 minutes making sure that BDG and Doom farm till they're ready to fight. It could go either way, Grandin.
That's the way, Riku. Farm it up, get ready to fight as we are ready to move into the Rift. Game number 3, the last game between these two teams.
Oh, it is a Morgana jungle. It's 7 on the Morgana
Where's
jungle.
Hell's Devil? We need Hell's Devil for this.
We need Hells!
Hells?
Hells, do you?
He is very prepared with this. He has a whole dissertation prepared for why the Morgana jungle works.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like jumping up and down like, yes, 7 on the Morgana jungle. And it works so well with this composition. Usually, when we see double enchanters hyper-scaling, it's usually mid lane and bot lane support, right? But it's so very rare on the jungle. And I love this so much because that means Clue can be on an engage support and then be that setter. You've got Black Shield, you've got movement speed. I feel like Duo has everything in comparison to BDG. BDG has to make such a huge effort to make sure that he's safe versus Doom.
He needs to get his job done well, but at the same time, that also means that T1 have a lot more independence. The rest of his team can get things done because Jong, look at the top side.
One more?
He's fighting Random 1 versus 1 and will come out ahead as Random narrowly survives.
Love the patience from Jong, right? He decided to keep his flash for the next potential fight. JY can double down on that, visit that lane later on, and finish the job.
A high-tension moment for these two teams. Will T1 join Roster Y in the group stage, or will it be RIX joining Team Queso?
That's gonna be crazy, right? Because yesterday we saw Sentinels get that win over Kwangdong Freaks, send them home, continue their journey in Icons. The same thing, the same tale can be told once RIX wins this series.
Game Lords unfortunately will not be able to join as well, and so it truly is a chance for either of these two teams to move into group stages as well, give their region another fighting chance. As we go down to the bottom side, 7. He's got the top side Scuttle Crab, and he wants the bot side one as well, but I do believe it was JY that was able to secure it.
And they're fine, no fights just yet. Again, this composition from T1, going back to basics here. Top lane though.
Very close to winning this fight though.
Woo!
Decides not to stay for it, flashes away.
Whew, that could have gone either way, right? But the Ignite was, not Ignite, but the DOTs were hitting on Jong.
I feel like that was pressure there. I think Jong could have got the kill.
Yeah. We're 2 routes.
He had the flash advantage as well. Random used it the last engage, the last instance. I do believe that that was a little bit of, yes, honestly just nerves going into the final game.
Don't want to risk it. You know, like top lane could go, could snowball out of control. 7 though.
Again, down the bottom side, Clue missed the chance. The flash headbutt. We see what happens here when you are so very close to elimination. A lot of pressure on these two teams.
Second time around though for 7. Binding.
Rotating around from the back.
Whoa!
Flashing in. Looking for the
Whoa!
ultimate. The condemn comes through. Instead, Penguin gets tagged and giving first blood over to RIX.
Gotta love the aggression that RIX is showing right now. Using the Morgana jungle, using Clue to set up for that instead. And I love the zoning as well. Flash, ult, Soul Shackle, Penguin, BDG separated. And now, JY gonna stick around though.
JY is here, spots them out.
Whoa!
Huge Cyclone to get the bonus damage out from Core. On the turret, Clue buying so much charge, and Embrace comes in. They're able to pull back on the JY. JY dashes in, gets BDG into the back line. Can't Rain finally finishes off the kill. The exhaust comes through on the Doom. That binding, not able to connect, not able to stop BDG, but it lands on the Penguin. Does not give T1 the chance to get back in.
Amazing Cyclone from JY, right, for that tower dive. RIX saw that. They could have gotten a kill from BDG, but because T1 were patient, JY wanted to go home already. Canceled his sports. Random, though, falling.
This should be a kill. Barrier out for Random. Ignite ticking down. Jong with a solo kill in the top side.
Nicely done. Jong wanted that kill since the very beginning of that game. Random earlier took it back, evened up the summoner spell pool. Jong is able to get that Hextech ultimatum, win that trade.
T1, 2-2 now, have just a marginally larger goal lead, but RIX as well. You see Doom here, he's holding a pretty good amount of gold, able to hit a pretty big spike. You see on BDG sides, able to pick up the BF sword, the Vampiric Scepter, and the Longsword, giving him the Acadian Rain upgrade. A pretty big power spike here for T1.
Yeah, that's absolutely important, right? Especially if you're laning, you need that extra help in the wave clear department, especially that's the weakness of a Vayne lane, right? They have a hard time getting priority unless 7 assists them, so I think that's very important for BDG to get ahead.
Switching things around, it's RIX up in the top side, trying to pressure out Jong. Meanwhile, T1 are the first to start up the objective. The Dragon going down quite quickly. RIX start up the Rift Herald on the opposite side of the map. Will T1 look for a fight? The answer should be no, as they move back down to bot lane to try and pick up more farm.
Honestly, RIX can do the same thing that BDG did in game number 2. Get the Rift Herald, funnel all turret plates onto Doom, accelerate his gold count, and then fight at the third dragon. Honestly, that they can definitely do that. We'll see if BDG. Honestly, I feel like this match in general, if we don't see any kills, I'm looking at the gold, and right now BDG is winning that for just a very teeny tiny margin.
Sure, gets a little bit more on the bot side. It is interesting to see Doom here in the solo lane against Jong, but Jong has a difficult time trying to hold the Vayne in place, at least by himself. We'll just look to back away. And as we start to see a couple of items come through for T1 and RIX. Thoughts on the next fights that are going to happen? Who comes up ahead, Riku?
Okay, for me, I feel like RIX is going to win because they have everything. They have double protection for Doom. And they have 2 tanky members that is able to soak a lot of pressure, soak a lot of damage for T1. On the other hand, though, T1 has a lot of answers to remove a single threat comp. We talked about Hextech Ultimatum into Cyclone. So as long as Doom is alive, RIX will win the fight. If T1 can hit their ults correctly, they're gonna lose.
I love how active JY has been throughout this game. Constantly moving around, trying to set his team up for success. But a very good job done here by RIX as well to prevent all of that, as John continues to try and snowball his lead even further. Random in a spot of trouble as JY is looking for a dive here as well. Ooh, the Ignite to cut the kilo and Honey Fruit flashing in. They managed to get the dive going. JY comes in, a beautiful upper end to prevent the damage coming through. The bleed onto JY, but he heals up.
Alive.
He survives through it all. Down the bottom end, Clue trying to force an engage here on the Penguin. Send Embrace comes through. BDG needs to get away, but gets caught by the Condemn on the way out. Gets Killer Instinct to dive back towards his turret and will survive the attempts by RIX.
Gotta love what T1 is doing, right? They're amplifying Jong because he is the primary answer to eliminate Doom. He's able to access the backline and just single target him basically with a Hextech Ultimatum. In response to this though, RIX saw an opportunity that, hey, JY is on top side. It's our time to dive bot lane as an exchange. But T1 prevents any sort of death on their side for that dive. I think that's a pretty good job.
Especially with the Rift Herald being used. T1 only lost that bot side turret and we're still able to trade back. First turret was over to RIX though, but it's not a huge loss considering all things considered.
Yeah, definitely, right? I feel like RIX wanted to get extra kills over that dive. But when we look at the gold, again, BDG is doing a phenomenal job replicating his performance from game number 2. If I'm not getting any kills, I'm just going to get all gold to myself. One thing that I'm looking at, though, when it comes to the 15 to 20-minute mark is that T1's composition is not a single threat comp. They have cores going to scale so well in the late game, and I feel like that's the concern that RIX has to face in fights where they cannot pull the trigger.
A massive rotation here from RIX up towards the top side. BDG,
BDG
gets caught here by Clue, flashing forward.
It's fine.
Or not even using the flash, just has to use the rocket belt.
Full dive.
Trying to go for the dive at the top
Whoa.
side. So much damage out here from BDG, but BDG still gets caught in
Clue?
the end. Clue goes down despite the black shield.
I think that's the best case scenario. Before you fall down, you take 2 down with you, and I think that's great. BDG now 3-1-0.
And initially, we had thought that BDG was going to be the main problem, core as well. But I start to see another issue start to form. Random not able to hold his own against Jong. He has some crowd control, has the upper hand. But seeing this Camille scale up, I'm a little bit concerned for RIX here.
Oh yeah, T1 recognizes the fact that they really need Jong to be the answer against Doom this time around. Let's take a look at that dive again. They have different forms of target, but BDG was 1v1ing Clue under the tower, and that gave him time to chunk him down. So therefore the tower aggro that's going on was a bit awkward, and that's the reason why BDG is able to get 2 kills before he fell down. With the assist, of course, of Core from downtown.
A 2-for-2 exchange, actually very worthwhile here for T1, as I do believe that emboldens them a little bit more. Are trying to fight for this Rift Herald. The Redemption comes in, will just barely take Random, but no damage effectively dealt.
Look at Jong here. He's going to Hextech Ultimatum Doom here. Watch, watch, watch.
Clue trying to knock them away. Will not be able to steal away the Rift Herald. Core offloading some damage, but T1 still not looking for a fight.
Okay, the reason why that didn't happen because Jong already used hookshot prior to that, so he couldn't exactly reach Doom in that scenario. Felt like T1 didn't see a reason why to engage either in that fight, because it was too late to begin with.
And I think T1 also just want to prepare for the Dragon, right?
Yeah,
that's
Infernal.
your win condition. That's what they like to try and play for. They don't really care so much about the Rift Heralds, especially when you have a Ziggs in your side.
That's true, exactly. I was about to say that because RIX badly needs the Rift Herald because it's a Vayne. If you're going to go in range of auto-attacking the tower, you're going to be in deep trouble.
It is a very interesting position here. RIX trying to walk in onto the Dragon. Clue comes in with the Black Shield Snitch. If he steps forward, JY finds the entry angle. Clue will get the knockout onto the Wukong for it now. JY just tries to reposition. The Redemption comes in the top, then back up to full. T1 going over the Dragon now. Flash coming through from JY, but the exhaust out from Snitch.
I like this. RIX dropping the Rift Herald. They might lose mid lane, though, if they keep going. Oh, dear.
7 losing some good amount of health right now. John looking
There
for
it
his
is.
re-entry angle. Will manage to find it onto Random, but gets caught by the Dark Binding. Stopped before he could do more to Rix's backline.
Well, this is definitely enough. They weren't able to destroy that tower going in.
Comes in with a killer instinct, has a hook shot. They manage to find the first kill on the turret. But Random responds here as well. Gets not hit by JY. Doom doing an amazing job dishing out damage. JY still alive for now, but gets hit by the Dark Binding, and that might not be the case much longer as Rix respond back with 2 kills of their own.
That was a very aggressive dive coming from T1. Able to get the tower and only 1 kill at the end of the day. It felt like they were having a hard time reaching Doom. I love the positioning from Doom here on that skirmish. And I feel like that's the reason why they couldn't win that fight entirely.
T1 do at least manage to pull away the Dragon, but a very ambitious dive there.
Yeah. Jong going in with a hook shot and then killer instinct from BDG. That was extra aggressive. But
Extremely.
I like it.
And I do like it.
Yeah.
The fact is, T1 recognized that, you know, we cannot be passive anymore. We must take an active stance. RIX on their side as well are perhaps looking for a play in the top side. BDG has been a target of focus. Doom, on the other hand, left relatively untouched. 3-0 and 3 has yet to die.
Yeah, both of these AD carries, BDG and Doom, are doing super well. You've got 303, 410 though for BDG. He's in the lead for the gold race at the moment. And while 1K isn't so much of a significant lead, I feel like it is still when it comes to the itemization, the upgrades that BDG is looking for.
Exactly. When you have the upgrades to your spells,
Yep.
because of that 1k difference.
Very important.
Very important indeed. RIX are trying to set up waves towards the top side as well as the mid side. Rift Turret was not able to take down the mid turret, so T1 still have that for now. RIX want to be able to pick that up as quickly as possible, open up the map for their sake.
Looking at T1, because they're the ones that destroy the mid lane first, they have control over the Rift Herald for the second Rift Herald that's going to spawn. And if they do deny that away from RIX, then RIX is going to have a hard time destroying these towers versus a Ziggs comp and the type of comp that they have, which is, again, we talked about it, the Fade's going to have a hard time sieging towers.
Right, the Baron.
The Baron. Oh, the Baron! It's the Baron!
It's the Baron. Hello, Mr. Nasher.
Hello. That's not a Baron impression.
Baron shows up on the map. You can start to see now 13 minutes into game. We are approaching the next phases here as well. Random once again.
Oh my god.
Caught out in a bad position. Clue will be able to find some damage and a knock up onto BDG to hold him in place. He pops the Unchained ultimate. Seven starts to run in. He does have his ultimate here going for him. BDG goes into stasis to buy some time. Dodges away from every spell as well.
Mission accomplished. Oh! Okay, no one falls from that.
No kill though.
That was too close there. Jong still trying to play with fire here, knowing the fact that a lot of RIX members are going home, seeing maybe he could get a kill before he goes home as well. Maybe sticking around even to get a tower, to get a chip damage on the tower. But I like this from T1, the aggression, they keep hammering at it. And considering the fact that game number 1, they're starting the Baron.
Is this for real?
It's for real.
For real?
For real, for real.
Under 10,000. Baron going down quite quickly, but it seems like RIX have caught on to this. Cannot trick them. They know what's up.
Yeah, we'll see though.
Wait, they do not know what's up.
Seven's far away.
They walked over. They thought they knew what was up. But the Baron going over to T1. And nothing that RIX can do to stop this. Random walking in now as well. He's gonna get tagged, but the exhaust has to stop flashing away. Will T1 pursue this kill? The answer is no, but the Baron still goes into their back pocket.
It was so difficult, right? Because 7 was far away, farming the red side jungle. So that means T1 had information that 7 was there. Really quick thinking from T1.
And that all started off that one kill onto Random in the bot side. Once they were able to get RIX low, knew they had to reset, they made a beeline for that Baron. Amazing macro here from T1. When the stakes are high, this is when it matters.
Yeah, amazing macro, amazing initiative as well. And when we look back at game number 1, T1 drafting a early to mid-game comp that unfortunately they couldn't make proactive plays, and seeing them now for game number 3 using a hyper-scaling comp, by the way, and being so proactive in finding kills and fights.
Dragon coming up in 20 seconds. Is going to be the Cloud. No Elder just yet. T1 starting to bring in these waves, trying to clear out the turrets. We'll pick up this mid one.
Remember, Grandin, 15-minute mark. We talked about how BDG is going to be a problem, and Core alongside with him. So if BDG falls, if Core falls, either way, as long as one is alive, they can still fight.
No, I'm very concerned here, Riku.
Yeah!
RIX, they still have a chance. They have strong champions.
True.
Doom could still pop off. He's still keeping up with the game.
Yes, if they activate a team fight and Doom is able to finish off kills, and he's alive, it's possible. Black Shield, movement speed from the Karma. RIX maneuvers around these fights so well. They can win. They can still take this back.
But it's all eyes on Doom at that point, and RIX need to give him the fight, the chance to pull them back in the game. T1 have done this before. They did it 2-0 last time. They're looking to do it 2-1 this time. RIX, on the other hand, fighting back the best that he can, using the spells to clear the wave. Transcendent's Brace was burnt trying to do it. Random might fall in the side lane, gets caught by the Hextech ultimate again.
Whoa.
Doom has his ultimate, but JY chasing after. He'll find the Cyclone onto the Vayne, a priority target for this team. But Clue standing in the way of T1. They need to finish off the Alistar first. Cyclone comes across again. JY finally goes down. T1 sent out of the base of RIX.
Okay, T1, if they blow all their resources and they do not kill Doom, that is the time T1 should be worried. I think this is the right call to back away, especially that JY is gone. They need a secondary. They need Hextech Ultimatum. They need Cyclone to be able to be comfy in these fights. But at the same time, the base is open, Brandon. RIX has to defend with their mid and a bot lane with natural wave pressure pushing in. And with, I wouldn't exactly say poor wave clear, but with a Morgana and a Karma on your side, I don't think you can match the same wave clear that BDG and Core has.
I can only imagine the kind of tension on stage right now. T1, Quantum Freaks were not able to make the cut into the group stages. Incredible competition in their group, in the play-ins, and now T1 have the chance to give WCK another seed in.
Exactly. Having 2 representatives towards groups is very, very important for the WCK. and they're very close to closing this out, especially when I look at BDG's inventory. He's got Guardian Angel, he's got Phantom Dancer, there's a lot of safety. RIX will have a difficult time killing BDG in these fights.
Watch the second Baron is up. This time around, RIX, they have vision. And so they know this is going down, but it's already down to less than half. 5,000 coming through. RIX need to pull the trigger now. Doom starts to run in, but they're going to go over to T1. They need to find a fight. Doom still trying to look for an angle, looking for an entry, going on to JY. Random picks out one kill. They find the Wukong finally in the pit. Penguin will go down as well. RIX still holding on a fighting chance.
Oh my word, that went so well for RIX. Able to keep Doom alive, able to free hit, but look at Jung. He's pushing the mid lane.
Look at the base.
They're
He's
pushing.
going in.
They're canceling the ports. They're not letting them go home.
T1's blocking it. They're onto the Nexus. RIX cannot get back to base in time. And Jung onto the Nexus has brought in the minion wave. And they've done it once. They'll do it again. They take down RIX.
What a way to end the series. What a way for T1 to continue their journey here in Icons with Jung pushing that Nexus, with the rest of T1 canceling the ports of RIX to defend their base. That was explosive, Grandin.
An amazing series from both these teams. T1 going to game one. We saw RIX coming out strong. They had fixed so many of the issues. They were able to prevent a lot of the dives happening from T1, a lot of the setup that they had come in planned for, and yet T1 going to games 2 and 3, we saw them shine bright. BDG performing exceptionally for his team.
Oh yeah, BDG. Game 1 didn't work out so well for T1, but when they put on the switch, BDG with the Lucian, BDG with the Kaisa, just T1 is amazing with that, with BDG.
And even towards that last fight, they were able to take down 2 people, Riku.
I know!
They still got JY, they got Penguin, and the remaining 3 members we saw BDG and Core, the 2 targets, the 2 carries you were mentioning, hold RIX around the Baron pit. Did not let them recall.
I know, it was insane too, because it looked really grim for T1 because they were all trapped in the Baron pit. I'm like, oh dear, Doom, that's a lot of easy condemns, right? But no, Jong went straight for the Nexus, and then Core and BDG prevented any ports back, making T1 win that game.
And what an amazing game here from T1. I will say this though, congratulations to get predictions right.
Woo! Yeah! We got our predictions right!
But that being said, cannot discount the efforts from the other teams. They did an amazing job here as well. Well, I'm getting the cue that says we can toss this over to the analyst desk, and I actually want to hear before they take over entirely. How does it feel having some of your desks get this one wrong, guys? Mika, Rafa, what do you guys have to say for yourselves?
Oh man.
Whoa, that was cold.
Wow, wow.
Hi, Granny.
I was
did not,
big fan,
I did
Granton.
not expect that from you.
I was ready to open up with Riku's dance, like, yeah.
yeah, well, I was gonna do that too.
And now I don't feel
Okay,
like
one
that.
more time.
Yeah.
Incredible. No matter who does it, it's incredible. What a game from T1. That
Yeah.
was the Korea that we've been waiting for a while. They advance now to the group stage behind J-Team, and they are the first Korean team to do so. They are the first Korean team, I think, to represent the strengths of the WCK regionally, which is the kind of quick, calculated decision-making we saw across both these games. Not only an, oh, we're gonna get this hyper-scaling AD carry, but also, as evidenced as Riku was talking about in that last Baron fight, where they're able to keep cool heads, make the call. It doesn't matter that we're getting decimated by Doom. We can execute through the mid lane. We can end this game. That's the kind of play that the WCK brings, and I'm delighted to see finally one of those teams be able to represent it on stage. T1 earned that win.
You can see Coach June completely elated with the rest of T1. I know he's went through a lot of hardship trying to get this team prepped hard, as even in their first series wins against RIX, you know that it wasn't full strength from either of those teams.
Oh yeah.
And you look in this game 3, when you go back to
classic RIX.
Yes, you go back to the top of the draft, it was Seven's Morgana, it was Doom's Vayne. Both of these champions, super huge pocket picks, and even though T1 were always itemizing resources to make sure that BDG was far more snowballed, you could see the pieces being put together by RIX. You could see that Doom was slowly getting these kills and coming online.
Yeah, what a series from RIX, what a performance from RIX throughout this tournament. They delivered with the Vayne in this game. They delivered with those games where they didn't have their entire team on stage and they were still able to find wins, find close games against T1. And it sucks to go out, but I can think of no better way to go out than looking as good as that, versus T1 on stage with all 5 players.
Exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself, especially since, you know, this is WCK team, this is T1, a very well-known organization. And, you know, RIX, they really did give their best. They have nothing, you know, they have nothing to be ashamed of, and they can go out with their heads held high, definitely. They made me hope. That's huge. That was like...
They pushed T1 to
This
the brink.
was the play where I thought, oh, they could still turn this. Because you get gold on that vein, things happen. And T1 just made...
Oh, Store, no!
I didn't see that the first time. I was already walking over here. That's
Same.
actually very sad. This was the call that impressed me. You can see just the confidence in decision-making from T1. Also, as we were talking about, the way they got PDG farmed up all series. And then actually the other thing that really sold me on T1, I think I turned to you and I said, ooh, T1 are fun now.
Yeah.
Was the play they made in the middle of the map, where they executed the combo they had drafted to perfection. So they realized that they have a pretty good mid-game team-fighting comp. It's kind of come online. Camille dives in, lands the Hextech ultimatum. You follow that up with the Kai'Sa Killer Instinct into the backlines, which immediately, that's a wombo combo ton of damage. But then you have a Kai'Sa in the middle of the enemy team. What do they all do? Well, they jump on the Kai'Sa to try and kill them. And that's when you pop the Wild Growth. Penkwood makes the Kai'Sa go big mode and gets an extra knock-up on everyone trying to kill the enemy carry. And so you get maximum CC over a very long period of time and a very well set up team fight.
And just to jump on this as we close out the series with T1 and RIX, this is the form that T1 needs to be if they want to be formidable opponents as we head into the group stage.
And it's so nice to see them smile. They've been taking a rather somber tone all throughout the play-in stage, and now they can finally cheer, they can finally jump up, they can smile because they have secured that second slot from Group C into the group stages. 3 matches down, 1 more to go. After the break, it is Liberty versus Sentinels.
Ooh.
And here is MTS from Sentinels on learning on their mistakes from their previous matchup against Liberty.
I'm MTS from Sentinels, and I'm the Baron laner. We were confident coming in the beginning, based on how scrims are going. We actually really didn't expect to lose the first series, so it's nice to have like a rematch or like revenge. I think the first game, we all kind of knew like as a team that we probably should have won and closed the game out better. So I don't think our confidence was that defeated. I mean, I personally thought I played bad, but I know I could get back into like the next games. I think like when we first faced Liberty, we were a little overconfident. We thought we were going to beat them and then move on to the next ones and the next teams in the group. But they came out and played really well, and I think we are going to prepare better now and we'll have a better showing this time. We've been doing really well in practice and scrims, and we just haven't showed it on stage yet. No, we're not going to let them stand it away. I think we're going to win tomorrow.